I am Dr. Lalit Baradia. I welcome you all to the second monthly theme-based CME organized by Pete Gastro Rajasthan. The first one was on celiac disease, and today's topic is frequently asked question on constipation. We have with us Dr. Neelam Mohan. We all know her. She is the director and head of pediatric gastroenterology at Medanta, the Medicity in Gurgaon, and has several first to her credits in the field of pediatric gastroenterology and hepatology, especially in the field of liver transplantation. She will be taking questions from the moderator and then from the audience. To join Dr. Neelam, we have experts from our state, Dr. Deepak Shivpuri, who is one of the most respected teacher in Rajasthan. He is currently heading the Department of Pediatrics at Surya Hospital, Jaipur. Dr. R.K. Gupta is senior professor and in charge of pediatric gastroenterology at SMS Medical College and JK Lon Hospital, Jaipur. And to moderate today's panel discussion, it is Dr. Natwar Parwal, who is pediatric gastroenterologist at Surya Hospital, Jaipur. Very dynamic, very uh, uh, social person. And one thing which has put all of us, especially the pediatric fraternity, in grief is the sad demise of Dr. B.R. Thapa. 2 days back, he was well known to all of us. He had special blessing for the pediatricians of Rajasthan because he has visited Rajasthan in Jaipur, especially on several occasions, and his teaching skills, his passion to teach was unmatched, and I mean, his demise has led to a vacuum in all of us. We would request everyone to be muted and to maintain silence for 1 minute to pay our tribute and condolence to Dr. Thapa, and then after that I will hand over the mic to Dr. Natwar, who will moderate the today's session. Thank you, everyone. Now I hand over to Dr. Natwar for this further proceedings. Natwar, you are muted. Unmute.
Thank you, Dr. Lalit sir, and good evening, everyone. It's really a very painful situation for all of us, and we will always remember Dr. Thapa sir. And today's topic is currently asked questions on constipation in children. And for this, the panelist is Dr. Deepak Shivpuri sir, Dr. Neelam Mohan ma'am, and Dr. R.K. Gupta sir. And before that, I want to thank Dr. R.K. Gupta sir, who is the president of Pediatric Gastro Rajasthan, and Dr. Lalit sir, who is the secretary of Pediatric Gastro Rajasthan, for giving this opportunity today to me for moderate this session. So let's start the frequently asked questions on constipation in children. So now we all are moving from COVID-19 situation. We have faced a lot of problems in 2020, and we have learned a lot of new things also from this COVID-19. But now in 2020, hopefully in next 1 or 2 months, we will meet offline after this COVID era. This is the slide I made around 3 years back when I saw this is the big problem, and there are lot of products available in market. These products, every pediatrician knows, they all know the different products and different work of action of these products, but there is a confusion what to start first, what not to start, which should we give any combination. You can see this diagram, this game we usually everyone is played in their childhood. So according to this game, the green should be one side and yellow should be other side and red should be on one side. This is the game. We need to fix all these goatees on the one side. So similarly in the constipation, what should start first? What is the actual dose? Is there any combination? Is there any plan to? Sometimes patient comes to us recurrence again. There is we need a disinfection sometimes again and again. Sometimes there are organic causes. Sometimes this is functional. So lot of questions. Though we give the answer in multiple CMEs earlier of these questions, but still there are lot of questions. There is lot of confusions regarding to start the which laxative and what dose. Usually, what I saw in the practice, with a little low dose in the fear of key patient will go more and more loose stool. So usually we start the low dose. So what should be the actual dose? This is the big mistake which we do in a case of constipation. If we will give low dose, we will never treat properly this patient. So let's start. First, my question is with Shivpuri sir. Very simple and very basic. Sir, tell me what is the constipation and how common it is. How common you see the constipation cases in your OPD, and how common we see to a specialist or a pediatric gastroenterologist, and how common to a periphery doctor, means what you see in your OPD.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, Dr. Natwar, for including me in this session. I'll answer the second question first. How common is constipation in children? Now, statistics show that 3% of children in pediatric office practice come primarily for constipation, and 30% of children in pediatric gastroenterology practice deal with constipations. But 3% is those who come with constipation primarily. Otherwise, constipation would be seen probably in 1 out of every 4 children who come to us. The second question is, what is constipation? Now, I am reminded of a very popular scene in the famous movie 3 Idiots, where the professor asked the class, what is a machine? And our hero says, a machine is something which reduces human effort, simply speaking. The professor wants a complete detailed book answer. So my answer to this question of what is constipation is hard, painful stools which cause distress to a person. Stop. However, the guideline which Dr. Neelam Mohan and Dr. Yacha made in Jaipur some time ago, and which was published in the IAP also, says that the presence of 2 out of 6 of the following define constipation, where the defecation frequency is less than twice a week, fecal incontinence once a week after achieving toilet control, history of excessive stool retention, history of painful or hard bowel movements, presence of a large mass in the rectum or on abdominal examination, and a history of large diameter stools that may obstruct the toilet. So this is the classical definition, but simply speaking, when a child has difficult stools and is distressed because of that, and multiple other definitions, that is constipation. Thank you. Dr. Natwar.
Thank you, sir. Very well explained the definition of constipation. Simply, the constipation is a distress to a patient. Means patient have to have a problem in passing the stool, that is constipation, very well explained. And how common, we all know it's earlier, around 10 years back, the diarrhea is much common and we see very few cases of constipation. But now, to a pediatrician, there are 4 or 5 cases in 100 are typical constipation. And to a pediatric gastroenterologist, every third child, you can say every third or fourth child that is having complaint of constipation. So this is, the constipation is very common nowadays. That's why we are discussing again and again this problem in our CMEs. So my next question. So my next question is to Dr. R.K. Gupta sir. Sir, a 7-year-old child, the weight is 20 kg, weight is almost okay, has pain abdomen on and off. He usually complains of pain abdomen during going to the school and passing hard stool on and off and irregular timings since last 2-3 months. This is not a classical features of constipation. He passes sometimes hard stool, sometimes timing is irregular, he passes morning or evening. So which medicine and what dose will you prefer in this case?
Thank you, Natwar. So I think this child is having a proper weight is proper, but the pain abdomen is there. So this child is having symptoms and there is a definite history of hard stools with pain and the timings are irregular and the duration is more than 1 month. So this fits into the diagnosis of constipation and the age is like 7 years. So I think though we are not sure about the various other factors, but primarily it seems to be functional constipation. So first of all, we would like to see, is there any red flag sign? And then we will start, and is there any infection is there? Feculates are there, and then we will start medicines. It will depend on the other things like red flag signs, if there is any blood in the stools, is there any recurrent vomitings, is there any loss of the weight which is not present in this case? So these are the things, and is there any short stature? And I think in this case, if feculates are not there, we'll start laxatives in a regular dose and we'll start. We'll discuss later on what are the various laxatives that we can give. Should I tell the doses here?
Yes, sir. Just in brief, you can tell the medicine and dose.
So laxative medicines can be classified in 3-4 major groups. First is the osmotic laxatives, which are commonly used in the pediatric practice. The polyethylene glycol. Second is the lactulose. Third is the lactitol. And fourth is the milk of magnesia. These are the 4 osmotic laxatives. And then we have stimulants like bisacodyl or sodium picosulfate or castor oil. And third is the...
So sir, in this case, which medicine you will prefer in this case?
In this case, if there is no infection, then we'll start maintenance therapy. Otherwise, first we'll give disinfection and then we'll start maintenance therapy. And for disinfection, polyethylene glycol is the best at this age. More than 1 year of age, polyethylene glycol is best. And for maintenance, polyethylene glycol versus lactitol versus lactulose. All three can be used.
Okay, sir. So I think nowadays the PG is much better for maintenance purpose also, and sometimes the patient is from village side, and if we don't understand, and if he is a little bit in lower age, we cannot add too much of water. So in that condition, we can use lactulose. Yes. So thank you, sir. We can discuss later the doses also. So moving to the next question. My third question is with ma'am, Dr. Neelam ma'am. Which case of severe constipation would you like to admit and what will you prescribe? In this question, I basically want to ask you, should we need to admit each and every case for disinfection, or should we can give the dose of disinfection at home? And just tell me what are the broad steps in management of severe constipation, or what we do if you see a case. Severe constipation means a child is coming to you after 10 or 15 prescriptions from different doctors.
At the outset, I would like to thank the Rajasthan for coming out with this innovative chapter. So hearty congratulations. Should have expected this under the smart Rajniti of R.K. Gupta, R for Rajniti. क्या बंदा है कि राजस्थान में आके ने चैप्टर खोल दिया फील्ड गेस्ट तो पहली बात मुबारक हो आप सबको
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalit, for that lovely introduction and for giving you all the opportunity for me. Now coming to the question, let me tell all the people who are listening, Natwar is called by love as Nattu. And Nattu's favorite is Jabardast. For everything, Madam Jabardast. तो इस बेवकूफ ने ये जबरदस्त को हिंदी इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेट करा सिवियर कॉन्स्टिपेशन पहली बात तो ये डेफिनेशन ही नहीं है सिवियर कॉन्स्टिपेशन I while he was talking looked at 3-4 guidelines before my eyes were down ये नया वर्ड कहाँ से ला लिया नट्टू राजा ने तो then I realized नट्टू को तो जबरदस्त वर्ड पसंद है guidelines पूरी साहब ने आज दिल जीत लिया इडियट्स की याद दिला के आमिर खान की याद दिला के दिल जीत लिया मेरा तो वेरी सिंपल हमारे जो प्रोटोकॉल है वी कॉल एज acute constipation we call as chronic constipation we call as refractory or intractable constipation so these are the words that we've been using fourth word we like to use impaction. So these are the 4 words of definition, and I assume that he wants to say impaction. So the question is this impaction. So get that out. So when it is impaction, RKG ne bataya. First, when do you want? How do you diagnose impaction? So impaction means आपका stools नीचे अटक गया है. So either you diagnose with your hands, palpate, you find an epitheloma, or you do a PR and you find a hard mass touching you, which we call fecal or whatever when it touches, or you do an X-ray and you find a ball in the rectum. So that is how first you diagnose. Once you diagnose that, then you know till you remove that ball, obviously the upper part will not get controlled. So as RKG said, we use polyethylene glycol. The dose that we use is approx 2 grams per kg in a day into divided doses. And we like to give it over, depending 4, 5, 6, 7 days till the stools get cleared off. However, the question is, when should I admit? There are situations where I admit, but maybe not more than I can count on my fingers in a year that we admit some patients where the patient is from outside, lot of stress, lot of fear, not able to sleep, not able to pass stool, usually bad infected stool, child is not accepting orally, then we like to clear it off by putting an gastric tube. We give 25 ml an hour and we clear it and we do it. And sometimes we want it to be faster, you can't wait till a week. So you do that. So that was the broad guidelines of management. नट्टू जी आपके पास
अनम्यूट करो आप नटवर
And I am saying finally send to a pediatric gastroenterologist if you have
तो
difficulty.
वो बाद में आप फिक्र मत करो पूरा वही होने वाला वो 2-3 चीजों को करने दो.
So very well explained by ma'am. We usually we don't admit a case of severe constipation. Usually we give a trial at home. Sometimes only if patient is from long distance, if typical.
Network.
Yes, ma'am.
Your apologies. You have very expert, august gathering around you as panelists. So a moderator repeats something only when you think the others have missed it. If the others have not missed it, darling, it is inappropriate to repeat what the person has said so that we get more time to discuss. Am I right, Sharon?
Yes, ma'am, right. So thank you so much. And now moving to the next question for Dr. Deepak Shivpuri, sir. What should be the actual dose of PG for disinfection in hospital as well as at home?
Thank you, Dr. Natwar. First of all, I'll say one point, that is, we have polyethylene glycol available as 3350 as well as 4000, sometimes with electrolytes and without electrolytes. Now, data shows that all these are equally effective. None is better than the other. Now, if a person has to be admitted in hospital, like Dr. Neelam said, and he needs disinfection, dissolve 1 pack of 118 grams of polyethylene glycol in 2 liters of water and give 25 ml per kg per hour by mouth, or in younger children who are not able to take that much amount orally, that can be given by a nasogastric tube. You continue this over a period of 4 to 6 hours till the rectal effluent is clear, which basically means that there's water coming out, clear fluid coming out of the rectum with no stool at all, which basically means that all stool and all feculates have been washed out. Now, this high dose may cause some bloating, flatulence, nausea, vomiting, and cramps. And younger children with that degree of loose stools may require IV fluids to prevent dehydration. The moment that goal has been achieved, then the dose has to be the IV, the high dose the polyethylene glycol will be stopped and oral will be immediately started. Now, if the child was not admitted and we need to disinfect him at home, then we normally give, as Dr. Neelam already mentioned, 1.5 to 2 grams per kg per day, usually in 2 divided doses for 3 to 6 days. Again, our goal is to have clear rectal effluent in order that all feculates have been washed out. Now, once that happens, gradually reduce the dose and adjust the dose. You may have to increase the dose also beyond 2 grams in case it is not effective. Then adjust the dose to get daily, soft, painless stools without strain, without pain, without incontinence. That is the goal of disinfection. Once that goal has been achieved, continue the maintenance dose for at least 3 months. If a child is passing soft, normal stools, please do not try to reduce that dose. If you do that, then constipation will again come up, impaction may happen again, and we are back to square one. And this thing has to be counseled to the parents in the first visit in detail over a prolonged period of time. Once you is getting soft stools, do not reduce the dose, continue that maintenance dose for a minimum period of 3 months, and with a regular follow-up to check for compliance. Never stop polyethylene glycol abruptly. Always taper gradually. Reduce the dose only if he is having liquid stools. If he is having soft stools, do not taper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So the purpose of disinfection is to just wash out the stomach. This is our goal. This is our purpose. In hospital, we can go as high as 4.5 gram per kg per day. And at home, we can start at 1.5. And sometimes we can increase to 2 and to 2.5 gram per kg per day in a day. So this is the dose. Though there are different products, some have 13 gram in 25 ml, some have 118 gram jar, some are the sachets, some are 18 grams, some are 10 gram. So different grams are available in different formats, but we should remember the dose as a 1.5 to 4.5 gram per kg per day. So my next question is from Dr. R.K. Gupta sir. Which is better, PG or lactulose or lactitol for maintenance, and why? Which will you prefer? In which condition you will prefer PG, and in which condition you will prefer lactulose or lactitol, or what is according to you?
So it's a very important thing in for a common pediatrician to know what is PEG, when to give PEG or lactulose or lactitol. I think all three are equal in more than 1 year of old child, and we can give PEG or lactulose or lactitol. Depends on the availability, as though all those three things are available nowadays, and depending on the taste and acceptance of the child. Less than 1 year, I think lactulose is better. So because the taste is slightly better and studies are not with the PEG, so less than 1 year, always use lactulose. In more than 1 year, you can use any of these three. The maintenance dose is lesser than the disinfection dose. For the polyethylene glycol, it is around 0.5 to 1 gram per kg per day in once a day dose or twice a day dose. And I think the 1 gram should be dissolved in around 15 ml of water. So that is the rule of thumb. And nowadays, ready-made solutions are also available, which may be taken without dilution or with dilution. Both things are there. So we should be aware that how to give this PEG. It is not to give PEG. It should be the appropriate dilution in which it should be given. And sometimes the PEG is unpalatable and it's the bland taste. So children do not take. At that time, we can take lactulose or lactitol. Lactulose and lactitol both are almost same, except that lactitol can be given twice a day and lactulose may be sometimes given thrice a day. But though both are effective in twice a day dose, so practically we are using lactulose mainly, but lactitol can also be given, and all three are safe. It all depends on the physician's choice as well as the child's acceptance. But we should not use milk of magnesia or other marketed products which are having combination therapies for maintenance. And we should not use both drugs, PEG or lactulose, together. We should use single agent for maintenance as far as possible, or we should only single agent for maintenance therapy.
Sir, should we use liquid paraffin in pediatrics?
Dose of lactulose I missed 1 to 2 ml per kg to start with, and we can once the child is passing 1 to 2 stools daily and motions are clear, then after 3 months we can start reducing the dose.
Sir, I am
Very
asking.
important that we should explain to the parents that this maintenance therapy is for pretty long period, 3 to 6 months or maybe even more, because it's a chronic disease and the bowels are already dilated. So the dilated bowel will come to normal size, and once the child is having painless motions, then he will pass motions without help of the drug. So we should not try to stop drug and see whether the child is passing motions without drug or not. So medicine should be given for at least 3 months, and after that, with the help of physician only, it should be reduced.
Sir, should we use liquid paraffin in pediatric, or should we avoid?
Liquid paraffin should not be used in pediatric, especially in less than 2 years, as there is a risk of lipid aspiration. More than 2 years you can use, but there is no advantage as we have so many good agents available. The only benefit of liquid paraffin is low cost and easily available in the government sector.
Okay,
as far as possible, if the other agents are available, we should not use liquid paraffin.
Okay, sir. So PG is, though for maintenance purpose also PG is better than lactulose, but few are the conditions where we should avoid the use of PG in less than 1 year, and sometimes if child is not able to take with water, we can use lactulose or lactitol.
Can I give a comment?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, actually, you see, what you said dogmatically about not to use milk with magnesia more than 2 years, with your permission, I would like to say that sometimes, post-operatively, acute constipation and all, it's okay to use. You can't give significant value to surgery, and lactulose gives rise to distension. So I assume Dr. RKG was trying to say that in chronic constipation, for long-term constipation,
yes,
he was trying to avoid it. But we need to review a little bit literature on this, why, whether it is a significant market, what, we just got hooked to polyethylene glycol. So especially in acute conditions, you will still see a lot of surgeons prefer in the post-op times, because it is very soft on the tummy and does not need volume and distension.
Madam, I meant to say only for chronic part,
Yeah,
because you
that's
need to
right.
give it for more than
That's
3 months.
right.
In that part, we can't use
Yeah,
milk of magnesia, but for acute condition, post-operative or like that, we can always use milk of magnesia with very good
that's why I
results.
just made a comment.
Yes, madam.
Sir, thank you, ma'am. Now moving to the next question. For Dr. Shivpuri, sir, what is the maintenance dose of PG and lactulose?
Thank you, Dr. Natwar. I think Dr. RK has already answered that question. And the only additional thing I would like to say is that polyethylene glycol is safe for short-term as well as for long-term use. And there is no tachyphylaxis as with lactulose. So when you have to give it for a long-term basis and over the age of 1 year, prefer polyethylene glycol with 0.5 to 1 gram per kg per day. But the dose may be a little more or a little less depending upon the response. Lactulose is already said 1 to 2 or even 1 to 3 ml per kg per day, depending upon the response of that particular individual. And lactitol, some people feel that it's slightly more, it's a little tastier than lactulose. Therefore, some people, it's a little sweeter. And therefore, when we say lactulose versus lactulol in children less than 1 year of age, some people may prefer lactitol also. But I think Dr. Neelam Mohan would be the right person to give a final word on lactulose versus lactitol. Dr. Neelam, please.
Personally, I think both are the components of the same thing. Ultimately, the product that you're going to get out in the body is same. And I totally endorse your views that there is no significant difference between the both when you take it in the body and just like I strengthen you. And we are so used to lactulose that we don't use lactulose so often.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. The one message is there is not a fixed dose in constipation. We can up and down according to the stool, and we should always up and down. Patient should not wait for a doctor to up and down. We should explain in our prescription that if child is not passing properly, you can increase. If he is passing more loose, you can decrease. So always explain by a Nishan. Now coming to the next question for Dr. R.K. Gupta sir. Sir, do you use picosulfate in your practice? Where is the picosulfate and what is the dose? Or should we avoid this drug side effect? What about picosulfate?
It's a very good question, because sodium picosulfate is very widely used in adult practice, and this is a very commonly used salt, especially for often and constipation that many adults are having, and especially after 40 years of age. And this is a stimulant type of uh, laxative, and like bisacodyl was the previous salt, and nowadays sodium picosulfate is available, and this is available in a form of tablet, 10 milligram tablet, as well as syrup form 5 milligram per 5 ml. And I think it has no role in the maintenance therapy, but sometimes in cases of chronic constipation and the infection part, when stools are very hard, and we can use sometimes for a day or 2 or 3 sodium picosulfate. And though it is not recommended by any of the societies or any of the guideline, I personally feel that it may be used, and one should be aware of the dose actually. 0.25 mg per kg per dose once a day, especially at bedtime, and it will act after 8 hours, and in the morning child may have a good motion. So roughly more than 10 years 5 milligram, and 4 to 10 years you can give 2.5 to 5 milligram. This is the rough dose as per the age, but clearly speaking, no guideline is saying that it should be used as a routine. Dr. Neelam, madam, please, what is your opinion? I would like to learn from you.
Well, it is a stimulant and I'm pretty fond of it. And I use it as a rescue therapy when I'm not happy with the first line and I don't want to increase the dose for whatever, either these side effects or, I've reached my dose. So we can, I think Nataravar has put that question, when do you want to add two drugs? Something you put that question, I think. I just saw your questions 20 minutes back after joining in. I'm seeing your questions as I go through because I love discussion extempore and not. So I think he's already putting that questions and that's the answer. I like to use it as a rescue therapy.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
So thank you, ma'am. Picosulfate usually we not use as a single drug or as a main drug. We use with a combination or sometimes only, not for the regular purpose.
Stimulant basically. So it moves your intestine and the others soften the intestine.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So my next question is for ma'am. Where do you use enema? Which enema is better and what dose? And one more question I want to add, the enema is like an old fashioned, we are using enema as previous or we are using less or more. Just tell me about this enema.
Yeah, so it's a very good question because when you asked me the dose, to be honest, I don't even know the dose that really means. I'm just trying to impress on you. I don't use it. So gone are those days when people use anemias and they do. Anemias are now used only in, and one is very, in different action. And you've done a PR and you feel like really quite stuck. So you want to start with polyethylene glycol and you think it's an hard one and you're not successful. So sometimes we like to use enemas and people have used in the past enemas for disimpaction purely. But I'm not a very old model, I realized, because since the time I've been practicing, I've been using polyethylene glycol for disinfection, and I have really combined it with that. That is one indication. Second indication where I use is when I'm doing anal manometry, and we do a lot of anal manometry in my department. So we need to pass the probes and catheters, and that's when we like to do when the patient comes, so that we are able to pass it. So in the pediatric group in constipation, that's the time. And the dose, what I prefer is the proctoglycerine enema. So it comes like 100 ml. So proctoglycis is what we use. So that's what we use it. And even the guidelines that we had made, the Indian pediatrics, that's what we talk. And we need to be careful about the hypophosphatemia and hypocalcemia. And we talked about this proctoglycerine enema. In the disinfection, we have talked about.
Ma'am, I want to ask one more question from you. Some persons in village area, they use so.
Question just now. We should do pretty fast because I love that question. How would you manage a patient of Guillain-Barré syndrome with that? I read it. So that's a very interesting question Samir is asking. Can you finish that and answer?
Just one question, ma'am. Sometimes the villagers use soap enema and all these. So this is okay or this is wrong practice?
Okay, not at all okay. Not at all okay. You should discourage them. And being in Rajasthan, it's your moral responsibility. That's why when I speak, with due apologies, I have tremendous respect for RKG, but I intervened and I said not necessarily polyethylene glycol and because do you know the cost of polyethylene glycol? So how many can afford? Even in a practicing center where I practice in Vedanta, people in Haryana come to me and say, Dr. Mahenge. So since it is so expensive, you need to see what you said. I think it was you or one of the, in fact, it was Dr. R.K. Gupta who said that it depends on the liking of the doctor and the patient and taste when he was talking about the maintenance, you remember? So sometimes you need to see the pockets, you need to see, analyze and discuss. And the common time when you get this constipation is in the toddler age. That is very, very common, especially in the village side. You see people, they come in the toddler age because they've been having this faulty feeding, taking too much of milk, and those toddlers. So in those toddlers that you end up with that. Otherwise, in a village setting, you rarely come with constipation otherwise. Unless they are hardcore milk drinkers, that's when it I've seen, at least in my Haryana practice.
So, thank you, ma'am. Moving to the next question, we are how do you treat anal fissure? Should we use each and every case of 2% lignocaine jelly? How to use this? What are the other options in refractory fissure?
Very
Are
interesting.
there any other jellies or anything else?
Very interesting question, and I must compliment you for that, thinking of that. And I was just trying to recollect the first time I gave a lecture on anal fissure management was not less than 15 years. I think it was 2006 or 7. I remember giving a talk on this when the new products came in the market. And that's when I really reviewed a lot on children, and especially in Crohn's disease. We find this deep fissures when we get stuck and we have to use medical treatment in those patients in Crohn's disease. But in cases of constipation, usually the anal fissure, we are able to treat much faster, unlike in those IBD cases. And before I say treat, understand why do you get it. So it's a longitudinal tear in the anal canal, and it's pretty common in children because when they pass the hot stool. So this is the clear-cut cause for the cycle of the what we say the pathophysiology in the toddler age. So it's a longitudinal cut in the anal canal, and that gives rise to, so the presentation is either the painful defecation or blood in stool. So this is how they present to you, not necessarily that you detected it, by examination. So sometimes the parents come and tell you these two questions, and that is a very important lead for you to see perianally. And another message is when you see this fissure, please don't put your finger, dig it, because it really will be painful for you to put in a finger at that time to do a PR, because one of your bosses or teachers have told you that you should do PR in every case. So in the presence of a fissure, I would avoid it. So first message was, how does it present and how does it cost? Second, what do you say? Do we use? So the best way to treat is to make the stool soft. So once you make the stool soft, the anal canal, which I said because of that, the painful defecation. So that's number one treatment for it that you need to do. And how to treat constipation is what we just discussed in your previous slides with all the doses and all that stuff. Then comes the cream. So I would like to tell the audience two things. One is we have got quite useful. I don't want to give the name, but I'm forced to give a name, Innovate. So this is, though I've seen in a lot of prescriptions, you should understand that when we use it, what we want is a lignocaine, which helps to give that local anesthetic effect, but at the same time, to heal a deep fissure, you need vasodilatation, and to need more blood supply. To get the more blood supply, simple, either nitrates or calcium channel blockers. These are the two things which are going to give you more blood supply. So when people use the other one, the name that I took the brand, that is what phenylephrine. Phenylephrine is a constrictor. So you are doing, so it's not the right thing to do when you have fissure without hemorrhoid. So if you have hemorrhoid, you can use phenylephrine, and if you do not have hemorrhoid, then you prefer, or some nodule hemorrhoid. That is when you use that. Otherwise, you try to use the nitrates and the calcium only if you think it is deep and you want to get it healing and it doesn't subside by your softeners, and there you'll be surprised that the patient comes back in a couple of days when you do soft stools, and they do very well. And most of the time, the fissures that you see in the toddler age, where you are getting more commonly, is this. But besides that, the chapter opens when you have what Natwar like to say, severe constipation. So in those cases where you're stuck against the wall, I think give a reference to a specialist, whether we or surgeons. Surgeons are out now because there are a lot of papers which have started coming that lateral sphincterotomy, they do it in adults fissure. I know a lot of my friends who have undergone it because we just feel that that's a one time. But the drawback in children is that it can give rise to anal incontinence, and no parents would like to go for a surgery for a fissure. So that's how you do not find head-to-head trials in children. And there was a beautiful paper that's why when I was teaching my students, I remember reading this paper where we talked about that the surgeries are now coming down in children we rarely use, and with the advent of this ointment, but in nitrates you get headache. So that was the lecture which I gave in 2005 for Crohn's disease. So you get headache, you need to be very cautious. And you showed in your first slide a lot of, picture of various things. And on the right side base corner, you named a gel which was starting with C. And that is the one which is a calcium channel blocker gel. And you can use it twice a day.
So thank you, ma'am, for giving this very nice few things and few learning things about anal fissure. Now moving to the next question. Ake Gupta, tell me the 5 common causes of organic constipation in children and infants. Sir, just enumerate the causes. We are running a little late and we need the question from audience also. Just tell me the cause of organic constipation.
So around 90% cases of constipation are functional and around 10% are organic. So whenever we have red flag sign or very early onset of constipation, like less than 6 months, we should think about organic causes. The commonest organic cause in less than 2-year-old child is Hirschsprung disease, and other other organic causes may be hypothyroidism. Then anal malformation may be anteriorly placed anus or the small anus, and spinal deformities. There may be spina bifida or spinal tuft or meningomyelocele, and then some kind of mental retardation of cerebral palsy. These are the common organic causes. And nowadays, celiac disease and cystic fibrosis, though it is not common, this may be one of the causes of organic constipation. And one more thing which is coming, which is increasing in frequency, cow milk protein allergy. Though this is a commonly it presents as diarrhea, sometimes it may present as chronic constipation also.
Okay, thank you. And one more thing, I think hypothyroid is also a common.
I told on number 2, hypothyroidism.
Mentioned.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So, moving to the next one for Shivpuri, sir. Sir, you are seeing lot of patients in your OPD. So, what the pediatrician write 3 common medicines which you will prescribe in your prescription OPD and which can cause constipation. Sometimes with unconscious mind we prescribe, sometimes patient give that medicine for longer duration. So what these 3 medicines you can?
I'll mention a few more than 3, if you don't mind. The first thing is iron supplements. I would think that would be the commonest cause of constipation. And whenever we start iron to any infant or child, we always counsel them that the child may have black stools, don't worry. But if the child has hard stools or loose stools, then you have to change the dose or lessen the duration. Number 2 are antispasmodics. Antispasmodics are given primarily for abdominal pain, and this is a great paradox. Somebody is coming to you for abdominal pain because of constipation, and we give dicyclomine or rotavirin, and that increases the constipation. The third is anti-diarrheal drugs, because some people are in a hurry to treat the diarrhea, and loperamide would be another cause. Antitussives, cough-reducing agents over the counter, which contain codeine and dextromethorphan, can also cause constipation. And finally, anticholinergics, which are given for bladder instability, such as oxybutynin or tolterodone, they also cause constipation. So these are some of the drugs. Another one is the tricyclic antidepressants, such as triptomar or amitriptyline, which is sometimes given as a prophylactic for migraine, can also cause constipation. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Natwar.
What was the second thing you said? Sorry, I just looked down. You said one was
After the iron supplements, it was antispasmodics, which I said primarily that's a paradox. People have constipation and abdominal pain, and for relieving abdominal pain, we give antispasmodics, and which aggravate the constipation.
Absolutely.
Dr. Natwar.
Thank you, sir. My next question from Dr. Neelam ma'am. When should we use combination of laxatives and which combination? So one thing we already discussed, picosulfate. You can.
Also, we talked about that, and then yes, we use it immediately rescue as PICO. And second, your question is refractory constipation. So basically, what I want to say is refractory is number one definition. Refractory means despite giving adequate case course doses, you're not showing any response for 3 months. Step number one is rule out that the cause is organic, like RKG said, or rule out hypothyroid. So step number one, refer
Organic.
to specialist. This is the time when you have refractive, please refer to a specialist, because everything that I'm going to be saying is everything to do with the pediatric gastroenterologist, whether you want to rule out a celiac disease, or you can do a hypothyroidism TTG if you want. Now comes the role of various things, whether Hirschsprung's disease, milk protein allergy, dyssynergia, slow transit time. So there is no point just changing the milk and thinking milk protein allergy. That's really funny. I see prescription. So don't do all that, and we will go step by step, whatever. And like, for example, my bread and butter of constipation. Once upon a time, my bread and butter was normal constipation when Natwar was a resident with me in pediatric gastro versus ped hepto. So, but now we've taught so much to the pediatricians that we don't get as that. But now what we do is we're dealing with predominantly the refractory constipation that comes to us, and we are identifying more dyssynergy. So what is dyssynergy, madam? Dyssynergy is simple. When you get stool in the rectum, the anal sphincter has to open, then the stool comes out. Dyssynergy means either the rectum doesn't contract adequately, or this doesn't open, or this rather contracts instead of open. So these are type 1, 2, 3, 4, which means poor contraction, impaired contraction, normal contraction, or contraction of the anal sphincter instead of opening, or inadequate. So we just do pressure changes, and patients are so happy because with that we are able to identify and give them a biofeedback. So that's now the things that we do, and I have properly referenced from all over North India, Punjab, and all patients coming from Delhi NCR for predominantly these type of cases that we do, and then we slow translate. Rare cases, I can't go on talking. When do you do appendicectomy? When do you do colonic manometry? When do you do transit studies? So these are our cup of tea, which we do in refractive constipation once we think it doesn't respond. Next, please. And the definition includes after you check the compliance. Sorry. So you wrote for 3 months, and you have to ensure the compliance ki jo tumne bola ya likha wo hua. You know, ki compliance nahi hua, so then it's not good.
So thank you, ma'am. One and last question from you also again.
Yes, now that
Tell me the 5
things which you asked me. One, I would say, is the food. So give them good habits about the food, the diet, the fiber, etc. Approximately 0.5 grams per kg, especially the toddlers that you're dealing with them. Second is talking to them about the fluids that they need to be taking. Third is teaching them about the toilet training. We can take that in questions, how do you do the toilet training. Fourth would be the parent counseling, which I think you said that you need to talk about the parent counseling, etc. I would do. And my favorite, fitness exercise, keeping your tone, keeping yourself, ensuring your, your vitamin D and this and that stuff. So all that is very important because it totally acts together. And last but not the least is treat the anal fissure if that is there. So these were the other thing that you would talk about. And I guess Lalit is giving a...
Ma'am,
He says
We
that...
have We have 5, 6 questions from audience. Natwar, would you please take those questions from audience
Yeah, please tell.
from the chat box?
Yes, sir. Before that, I just want to take a comment from ma'am. Usually, we prescribe sometimes gunguna water in morning to a child or sometimes to a adult also. That is a very good thing. So, what do you want? What is your opinion? Should we? This is very nice, very good, or it's okay, or
When you talk about the yoga therapy and all, when they give this water and they make you do the Kapal Bhati, it is basically you're moving the intestine. And if you see the teen people, they show you how they are able to. So these are all very good things because we all have a gastrocolic reflex, whether adults or children, they have more than us. So if that gastrocolic reflex helps us in doing, and when you said kunkuna, it just reminded me one thing. You were asking me about the anal fissure. Now, even in that anal fissure, sometimes we ask them to sit in just pure kunkuna pani or lukewarm because it helps to relax the anal sphincter because I said it is a vertical lesion in the anal sphincter. Otherwise, avoid those Sablon and all people put it, so don't do that. It's not must if you're not able to put your bumps into it. It's a big baby. So that's the only logic when we talk, and I agree with what you said.
okay? So it's exact 9:30 now. We have finished our panel discussion in 1 hour. So first, we will take few questions from chat box. There are. So the second question is from the ma'am. In a 10-year-old patients with GBS with constipation, how to manage such type of constipations when straining is compromised?
Yeah, so one thing I really liked about this question, basically in the neurological impedance, constipation is going to be for two reasons. One is they could be motility disorder in them. So that you need to remember that these patients have a lot of motility disorders, transit time may not be able to get it. Rule out any fecal in those patients either by a PR or an X-ray, even if it is an X-ray, not necessarily that you can do it in a lying down position and see. And if you think there is a fecal then you need to do the disinfection, which my panelists will talk to you. But remember, there could be an issue with the motility in such patients. And third thing, remember the patient should not be any medications which are giving rise to constipation, and you need to look into these important issues. So that's why, right? And anal fissure is also a very common thing seen in the neurologically impaired people where they are not able to express and all that stuff. Not only Gulenbari, I mean, generally. So you should be very vigilant in treating the anal fissure, talking to them. So one of the few surgeries paper that you see in the pediatric age group is actually in this cohort of neurologically impaired children where people have talked about these surgeries in them because of that. So these are the couple of points which you raise in a correlation.
So one more very interesting question from R.K. Gupta sir. You can give the answer in a better way of this question. In constipation, which banana, ripe or unripe, which is better?
RKG will give? Or is asking or is giving?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So in the constipation, first of all, the common perception is that the banana will cause constipation, so it should not be given. This is a myth. And you can easily use ripe banana, which is a good source of fiber. So ripe banana can easily be given in constipation. And unripe banana in the north, people do not use. So that is not the basic thing. I think that is fine. The ripe banana can be given easily to a child with constipation, which is a very good source of fiber.
Okay. So one more interesting question for Shivpuri sir. What is the criteria for stoppage of PEG, lactulose or lactilose? When will you say to stop?
We mentioned that earlier, that once a person has got disimpacted and is on maintenance therapy, you give maintenance therapy for a minimum period of 3 months or even longer. And once the child has been doing well, but at the same time, when he's on maintenance therapy, you have to counsel and, you have to forcibly tell them that your increased fiber diet, increased fluid intake, sitting on the potty every day soon after a major meal, so to take advantage of the gastrocolic reflex, proper potty posture with a stool under the foot for the proper angulation. All these things are equally important, because if they depend only on the laxative, then we are likely to, get impacted again, and constipation again, and all that has been done over that period will go back to square one. So you give it for minimum 3 months. And if the child is doing well, very, very gradually try to reduce. If you reduce, and the moment you feel that the stools are getting a little on the harder side, increase again, give it for an additional 3 months. It is not addicting. It's important because people ask that if you give laxatives for a long period, we heard that it is addicting. It is not so. You give it for a prolonged period of time. But as far as lactulose and lactitol are concerned, as I mentioned, it may cause some tachyphylaxis, and they may not be very good for long-term use. So prolonged use, and counsel them that you have to give it for a prolonged period.
Yes, sir. So one very interesting thing, we always prescribe in our first prescription that the time will take, it will take 5 months or 6 months. Just always tell your patient in a first prescription honestly. Then he will definitely follow your guidelines. And one more question on GBS for ma'am. Which drug is preferred in patients with GBS patient to treat or prevent constipation? Ma'am.
Yeah, now I really don't know. Is he assuming the GBS patient is like not so progressive, they should get okay? I don't know whether he wants to say neurologically impaired stuff. So if it is an acute constipation, because GBS is usually for a couple of weeks that they're going to have. Unless Deepakji, what is he trying to ask? Is he saying that chronic constipation? What he wants to say? So the treatment is exactly, I hate to give in neurologically impaired children or in an acute setting too much of polyethylene glycol. And because of the issues with the neurologically impaired, when they have issues with the transit, and sometimes I like to use the picosulfate if I finding the issues with the transit. And you might end up with using a combination in them. Otherwise, what we said in infants, avoid this for aspiration, do not use milk of magnesia in them. Avoid polyethylene glycol if you think the volume is overload, if there is a risk of aspiration. So the same rules applies to that, and you will find a very good, just like the ISPGHAN guidelines are there on constipation, they are there on neurologically impaired. So they just talk about these in the neurologically impaired people that you need to see, and that is where we do a lot of motility disorders and all that get to us, and we use them sometimes when we start. I've done two in my lifetime, where we use sort of enemas. We get the appendix out on the skin, and we are using like to propel it when the nerves are affected. So these are very different things which you need to refer to a specialist and not something for a Q&A here. That's what I would say.
And one more very interesting question. Usually we sometimes some infants 3 month or 4 month age, they come with constipation. We rule out the Hirschsprung and organic cause, but it's still constipation. So what will you prefer? Can we give lactulose before 6 months, or should we use glycerin suppository? What is your? Yes, ma'am.
Lactulose is okay.
Okay. So I want to.
Here I would like to add the one thing that not passing motions for 3 to 6 stage in a newborn or even up to 4 to 6 months of child who is on the breastfed, it is normal also. So we should see that whether the child is having some problem or not, or it is only like mother is thinking that the child is not passing motions. So then the counseling is fine. Otherwise we can give lactulose. And glycerin suppository I do not use. I think Madam has told that it is also not much useful. It should not be used, and lactulose can be given safe.
Well, to be honest to you, we use it only in the post-operative condition sometime in small babies.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And lactulose can we give like in older children as a maintenance, or we can give as a SOS basis, or how can we give? What is the dose in that 3-4 month old child?
SOS basis, do it, look into it, why it is, try to sort out the cost. They should refer to you and or RKG or Lalit, and you also decide that why it is. If they think it is normal, then fine. If not, in fact, if you look into the red flag signs, less than 6 months is a red flag. So
Okay.
it is is a
Yes, sir.
red flag sign and you need to rule out conditions, whether it is an anteriorly placed anus, whether there is a band within the anus, whether it is a stenotic anus, whether it is a Hirschsprung, all this needs to be ruled out. And you need more of a gastroenterologist than purely a surgeon, because as I said, we shy away from using barium enemas because it is so much of radiation. So I do only anal manometry and give them that the rare is present. Rare means rectal anal inhibitory reflux, which means when this contracts, this opens. So this reflex we see. If this is opening, then it is not Hirschsprung. So that is what we see, and then we refer it. Of course, then the next step you like to do the barium enema, and third is a punch punch.
So it's 1 hour or 10 minutes. I want to take one key message from everyone. First, Dr. R.K. Gupta, sir. What is your key message, one line key message for everyone?
Key message is that chronic constipation and or the functional constipation, it's a chronic disease and it needs a treatment for long period. So it should be clear in the doctor's mind also, as well as in the patient mind also. We should always counsel parents at first visit or second visit or third visit that it need to be given for long time, and do not reduce the dose or stop medicine without doctor's advice.
Yes, and one thing we can make a diagram in the first visit, and we can explain by diagram everything to a patient. Then patient will definitely you will get the confidence of patient. Thank you, sir. So one key message from Dr. Shivpuri, sir.
Give them a stool diary also, so that it gives them a little homework to do.
Yes,
So
sir.
they're plotting the potty, the kind of potty he's doing, and whether they increase the dose. So when they come back to you for a follow-up visit, then you exactly know that they are really involved in the proper treatment. Otherwise,
Yes.
they're just depending upon the medicine, and that's all. So counseling on every visit is extremely important. Thank you.
So this is very, very important to involve the patient in initially 15 or 20 days or 1 month, and they can write, or sometimes 1 or 2 patient, I just forget to give them the stool chart. So they write in a language, this child is passed like this, everything in language. So this is really very interesting, and this is important for doctors also. We can see this chart and we can titrate the dose, and we can what add or not add, or we can counsel them in a better way if we will get the stool chart. Thank you, sir. So one final key message from ma'am side.
ललित को कुछ है वरना मैं बोल दूं. ललित को फिर से मैसेज भेज रहा हूं.
Okay, so one key message from Lalit boss.
लॉक किया जाए. अमिताभ बच्चन स्टाइल में my key message goes now. Remember, in India too, in Western countries, 30% of the cases are refractory constipation, the one which you think functional constipation. In India, once again, 15 to 18% are refractory constipation, where despite giving the adequate doses, despite following the 2 agenda, which Deepak ji and RK ji has said, you will not get result. That is the time you need to remember the pediatric gastroenterologist, because it is not just simple constipation. These are the 10-15% where I need to understand, is there motility disorder or is there pelvic floor dyssynergia? If there is pelvic floor dyssynergia, I need to treat differently. If there is motility, I need to treat differently. So that is what needs to be addressed. Thank you so much for having me over. And I would like to also say, it was really a pleasure. I guess Dr. Das from Kota is there. He was very sweet. He sent me a message half an hour before. Looking forward to see you. Dasji, I could not see you, but I hope, I just wanted to take your name. Thank you so much for remembering me on Rajasthan. Thank you. And Rajasthan, ki kya baat hai? You know, everything about them, the way they conduct the students, the way they express their love. And मेरा connection तो इतना ज़्यादा राजस्थान के साथ है कि मेरे को लग रहा है last year मेरी luck factor बहुत खराब था. पैसे बड़े कम कमाए, ट्रांसफार्म तो खूब करी, पैसे नहीं दिया अस्पताल, because साला राजस्थान ने नहीं बुलाया, तो luck factor रुक गया था. I look forward to coming and seeing you and having all your warm wishes to start a lucky 2021. And thank you, Natwar. I'm very proud of you for all that you're doing. And you look pretty good in the mustache. You don't look Natu. I have to call you Natu.
So, thank you, ma'am. I would like to, Dr. Lalit sir, you just conclude the things and you can say the thanks, vote of thanks to
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, yeah. So I think at the outset, I am very, very thankful to Dr. Neelam Mohan. We know your schedule. You have been very busy and you have a lot of responsibility on your head, not only restricted to your institution, not only restricted to your country, but also Commonwealth. And we get a lot of mails from Dr. Neelam where, I mean, it is amazing to see how you manage. And there are so many things to learn from you, not only pediatric gastroenterology, but also how to effectively communicate with juniors, with people of your age and seniors. And it's an inspiration and we really enjoyed it. I am also thankful to Dr. Shivpuri sir, Dr. R.K. Gupta, Natwar for wonderfully moderating this session. And last but not the least, all the audience who actively participated with a lot of questions. And this gives us, immense satisfaction that I think whatever we are attempting under the banner of Feed Gastro Rajasthan is something of use to everyone, and we plan to continue to do this. Our next meeting will be on the second Friday of next month. I think it is on 12th of March, and we will communicate to you once we have finalized it. Thank you very much.
Good today.
Thank you, thank you. And extremely sorry if there are few questions left in last, I think 4 and 5 questions.
So before we quit, Sabir, can you take a picture? I can see you as the technical guy. So for 5 of us together, not only network, 5 of us together, get ready.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Cipla and their team who have helped us not only in the this meeting but also in the first MTBC. And because of their help, we've been able to conduct this seamlessly. Thank you, Team Cipla.
Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, ma'am, for sparing the time. Thank you, Shivpuri sir,
Bless you all
for
of you. And may you all continue to prosper and do good to your patients. And also one message I would want to give, that do a little for women empowerment, because it is you men who will empower women. Rajasthan needs it. Educated people like you will help this in a long way. And I was very impressed with Deepakji. I didn't have opportunity to meet you. I keep meeting three of them, but you are really a teacher of teachers. Is very impressed with you. God bless. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much. God bless
Thank you, madam. We are doing this woman empowerment, and we will be doing as per your.
तो मुझे प्लीज मार्च 8 को एक बारी राजस्थान को उसमें मीटिंग करके 5 मिनट भाषण देने के लिए बोलना.
बिल्कुल मैडम, बिल्कुल डन. Thank you, madam. Thank you for sparing your time. It's always a pleasure to meet you and listen to you.
Our relation was so old. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Pranam.
Thank you.